back, guys, to my horror Halloween movie review series in the month of October. My name is Anthony Jenkins. If you're new to my channel, I am in the middle of reviewing horror movies and Halloween themed movies in the month of October. And continuing that series, today I am reviewing the 1981 horror comedy classic, American Werewolf in London. And to start this review off, I'd like to say that this movie is interesting, I'll say that. This movie is directed by John Landis, who before he directed this movie, he directed films such as Animal House, Blues Brothers, those cult comedy classics that he directed that loved by many other people. And coming into this movie, when he pitched the idea to the studio, they said that this movie is too funny to be a horror film and too scary to be a comedy. And that's pretty much what you get in this film. I feel like this is one of the first movies that perfectly balance and combines the genre between horror and comedy. There are some horror movies or some horror comedies that go a little bit too overboard on the comedy or go a little bit too overboard on the horror. This movie perfectly balances those two genres and one of the first to do that. I mean, you also have other horror comedy movies that I like the Evil Dead movies and the Scream films, which are like meta horror comedy. But this is probably my favorite one because the movie perfectly, appropriately uses humor and scare into one film, and in a way that the tone doesn't feel inconsistent. Like, the tone feels completely consistent throughout the entire film. There's not a moment where I feel like there's a horror scene it feels out of place, or where there's a comedy scene that feels out of place. And that's all thanks to John Landis and the line delivery from David Naughton and Griffin Dunne's character, David and Jack, who are just two American friends touring in London. And then they go to this pub, and then they see the red star on the wall, a 5-pointed star, and they ask them, and the people get weird, and they kicked out, and then they found out that there's a werewolf out there, and it's a full moon, and Jack gets killed by a werewolf while David gets attacked by a werewolf. He is in fact now a werewolf. There are scenes in this movie where I'm laughing my butt off, like the scene where David wakes up after his first wolf attack, and he wakes up in the zoo, and then he's in the bushes, and he sees a boy, and he takes his balloon, and then the boy goes to his mother and says,
"A naked American man stole my balloons."
What?
And also some of the scenes between him and Griffin Dunne I really love, like their friendship and their banter, and they're coming off on each other. And speaking of Griffin Dunne, we see him now as part of the undead due to his murder from the werewolf, and he is now a walking corpse with beautiful, amazing, Oscar-worthy winning makeup with like the scratches and the cuts and the blood and the open trachea. And like, all that stuff seemed very, very real. It looked like I was actually seeing an actual walking corpse. And when you finally see him, you expect him to be like, "Oh my god, David, what happened to me? Look at me." But no, he just all like,
"Can I have a piece of toast?"
It's so hilarious, and just the dark, crazy, just messed up humor in this movie works very well. It's scenes like that is what makes me laugh, and it's something that will make me like be uncomfortable with, like, oh, this guy is dead, he's like a zombie now. No, he's like, "Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Can I have that toast? Hey, what's up?" It's like there's no big deal at all. So, what I really loved about this movie, this was like a small aspect of the film where the dream sequences that David had while he was in the hospital, and you get to see like him with the Sailor's Lot demon-looking face, and him being attacked along with his family by Nazi werewolf demons, and him in the woods, and I was like, what in the heck is this movie doing? And I also love, even though it's a love at first sight cliche, the romantic chemistry between David and Nurse Alex, who he meets at the hospital. You can definitely feel the chemistry, and like I said, it is a love at first sight thing we see in every single movie and every single rom-com, but I buy it. I actually buy those two having a thing for each other, them having feelings for each other, them loving each other, even though that David is protecting her from him because he is a werewolf. And I also love how every scene where you see Jack, he gets more and more decomposed. Like, first time you see him, he's fresh. Second time you see him, his skin is green. Then last time you see him, he's a walking zombie. and just like I said, amazing practical effects by Rick Baker. And speaking of the practical effects, one cannot review American Werewolf in London without talking about the iconic transformation scene. Not only is this the most iconic scene in the entire movie, this is one of the most iconic scenes in horror history. Just to see that the painful process and suffering that David is going through, turning into this monstrous demon-like werewolf. You see like the hands forming, and the bones coming in and changing, and the feet changing, and whole body changing, and the facial structure is changing, and hair coming again, and fangs coming again. It's like, oh my god. Like, and after 39 years, that still holds up. Actually way better than most horror movies nowadays. Like, that scene alone, it definitely deserved the Oscar award from 1982. And besides that, my favorite scene in this movie, besides the transformation scene, is the subway scene where you see the guys get off the subway, and you hear the David Werewolf coming after him, and he just running in this entire subway station, all by himself, in the middle of the night, where there's nobody around. And I just love how the scene has no music. You just feel the atmospheric, like, tension in the scene, like, this guy is about to get mauled to death. But as much as I do love this movie, I do gotta say, I will admit, I do have some issues with this movie. My biggest issue with this movie is the ending. Now, I understand that they had to kill David. He was a werewolf. He killed a lot of people, ate a lot of people. And my issue with the ending is that not David getting killed. I understand that. But how abruptly the movie ends. I mean, just look. Like, that is the most randomest way to end a movie ever. I mean, you just kill off a tragic character, a guy who didn't want to become what he became, and then boom, bang, bang, what? Like, what? I get it, they don't want to show too much of the werewolf at first, but I really wish they did. I mean, like, every time we see the werewolf in this movie, it's always like quick cutaway shots of him attacking somebody, or just a close-up of the werewolf's face or his eyes. But we didn't get to see the full werewolf until literally the last 10 minutes of the movie. Like, as soon as he was eating people in the theater, they bust out and started snapping at people, and that's where you finally get to see the full reveal of the werewolf, just to see how it fully looked. And I love the reveal. I love the look of the werewolf. But I just wish it came in a little bit earlier, especially since this movie is an hour 30-something minutes. And also, too, going back to the theater, I didn't really like find David being in the porno theater all that funny. I mean, I thought the other undead character that David attacked during his first full moon outing, I thought that was funny. Him telling him how to kill himself, that was funny. But it's him being in the porno theater just made me a little bit uncomfortable. I mean, I get it's a horror comedy, but like stuff like that, I don't really find funny at all. But overall, guys, that's pretty much all I have to say about American Werewolf in London. This is a horror comedy classic and earns its place. It definitely deserves the Oscar for Best Makeup and Special Effects with the transformation scene and the dead corpse of Jack. And it's just a great movie overall, and you don't get movies like this nowadays. I'm gonna give an American Werewolf in London an A-. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and if you've seen American Werewolf in London, which who hasn't, honestly, let me know what you think of the movie in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, if you're new to my channel and you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.